Good morning. Thanks for joining me on live this morning. I'm on Ryder. We'll talk about him a little bit. You see now today I'm wearing short sleeves again. I think our high today is supposed to be close to 70. We're supposed to come down a little bit. Tomorrow our high is supposed to be like 60, like our typical temperature, 40 and 60. And then going into next week, I think Saturday on through Christmas, we're going to be in the 70s again. I think our high for Christmas Day, I believe, is 73. It's typical Christmas in the South. It's raining again today. This is supposed to be our last rain for about a week. It rained hard for the live last Thursday. But today it's supposed to be actually a really good soaking kind of rain. I think we're supposed to get between 1 and 2 inches over about 12 hours. So that's a good rain for the ryegrass and the pastures, and that kind of rain is good for stuff growing. I've had people ask about flooding issues around here because we do get so much rain, and there's some areas that flood, like the creeks that come up and down. But it's more when you get off the coast a little bit. The creeks will get up pretty high. Uh, but I'm right close to the coast. I'm right close to I-10. So right around here, we don't have too much flooding. A little bit of low areas here and there, but it's not too bad. Um, you get off the coast a little bit, yeah. There's some decent flooding. The creeks go up and down a lot. Um, Another thing too, here our ground is pretty sandy. So a soaking rain like today, it soaks in pretty good. Really, you get a lot of runoff when you have the heavy rains, like last Thursday. I think we ended up getting, I believe, about 8 inches over about 36 hours last week. It was a lot of rain. But that's kind of typical for us. We get a lot of rain. Uh, that's really was the driving factor behind getting the covered arena, was to be able to get out of the rain to be able to ride. Um, Different parts of the country, different reasons, and that was really it, to get out of the rain. I want to talk today about applying pressure and release, and just about all methods of training come down to some form of pressure and release in some fashion. And yeah, Bug and T, I think, is going to put on a show for you. They play like that for hours every day, right there. They entertain themselves like two kids. But just about all forms of pressure and of training come down to some form of pressure and release. And many of the issues that happen is because of applying pressure and release incorrectly. And most of the time, it's um, the person applying it incorrectly doesn't even realize what's happening. I'm going to talk about one situation that happened here in my wash rack a while back with an owner. And I was just messaging with somebody yesterday that's having trouble with their horse. And basically, they took a problem and made it worse by incorrectly applying pressure and release. So I'm on Ryder here, and we're going to be hopefully showing Ryder in the ranch finals in Guthrie, Oklahoma next spring. Coming along really nice. But if you remember when I started him, he was rough to start. Bad about bucking. It took a while to get it in a point where we could get on him, and he just would go on and work like he did this morning, instead of spending the first 10 minutes trying to buck us off. And in his situation, we had to make sure that we applied that pressure and release correctly. When his feet got still, when he quit bucking, we released the pressure. And that's similar to what's happening with the person that I was talking to yesterday. Most of the time, when pressure and release is applied incorrectly and creates a problem, the person doing it doesn't even realize what's happening. Several months ago, I had an owner come to work for me to work with them and their horse. And after they rode, we had the horse in the wash rack, and she was rinsing the horse off. Pretty typical stuff. And she rinsed the front legs, the front of the horse, no issues whatsoever. When she went to the back legs, She sprayed the back. The horse stepped away from the hose and she released the pressure. She went around, pushed the hip back over, sprayed again. The horse stepped over and she released the pressure. And what she didn't realize she was doing is she was teaching the horse that if the horse stepped over, the pressure would go away, which the water was the pressure. And that's how horses learn most everything. You want to, like, let's say you're sacking a horse out with a plastic bag. Most all of us that work with horses do that at some point. You want to shake the bag, and when the horse's feet get still, you take the bag away or you take the scary thing away. You don't want to start releasing the pressure or taking the bag away while the feet are doing the thing you want to discourage. Uh, Dusty was here yesterday, and we worked on loading Basta in the trailer. I got all that on video. That was basically just a clinic on how to load a hard to load horse. I'll be posting that sometime in the next few days. And at one point in there, she's thinking about going in, and I'm behind, and I shake a plastic bag, and she takes a step, and as soon as she takes the step, I take the plastic bag away. I'm rewarding that step. If she took the step and I'd have kept shaking the bag, then what'll happen, she wouldn't have got the reward for the step, and then she would have come out of the trailer or would have ended up with bad things, or she would have not wanted to get in the trailer next time. Really critical when you take that pressure away. That's the big thing, because taking the pressure away is the reward. Uh, Pressure and release, right thing easy, wrong thing hard. If you have any situations where you had accidentally applied pressure and release wrong, and then after the fact you said, "Well, duh, I realized what I did." Put it in the comments. Let us hear about it so we can talk about it. This is actually really common, and not just for individuals. It's common for trainers too. Um, the little bit of situation, the girl that I was messaging with yesterday. So I'm not sure what part of the country she's in. I never did ask, but she had a horse that was giving her trouble at the mounting block. At the mounting block, the horse would run off sideways, and it's kind of like if a horse bucks you off, or you come off a horse, or let's say you don't even come off, the horse is doing something bad, and you stop to regain your composure and you let the horse's feet stop. Well, the horse got the reward, which is stand still, as a response to the feet moving, the negative thing. That's the kind of thing you want to avoid. And what was happening with her is the horse was scooting away at the mounting block, and she had a trainer help her, and the trainer was working with at the mounting block, would lean over the horse, tap the horse on the shoulder, and give it a treat, which did get the horse standing still at the mounting block. But what it did not do is work on the horse's desire to stand still. The horse was standing still to get the treat, was not standing still because it was asked to stand still. That's my biggest issue with training using treats. I want the horse to do what I'm asking because I asked, not do what I'm asking because of the reward for the treat. The reward is the release of pressure or letting the horse know he did a good job, petting on him, rubbing on him, stopping. That's the reward that I want, not the treat reward. But anyways, the trainer worked that way, and I actually got the horse standing nice. She could lean over the horse, pat on the shoulder, give a treat, pat on this side, give the treat, and the horse would stand good. She would step off, walk away, come back, do it again, and with that trainer doing it, it worked good. But the issue that you run into, trainers that have that kind of experience know when to stop. If you saw Tick Maynard at the Road to the Horse, how he kind of lays across the horse's back, basically he's using like his body like a flag to desensitize the horse to his body, pressure and release. You have to know when to release the pressure. He'll lay over a colt's back that he's starting and desensitize the colt to that, and then release pressure, slide down. There's the pressure and the release. And he's very good at it, and it's a good technique. the issue that some people run into when they try to do that technique or any other technique, it could be one that I use, if you don't release the pressure at the appropriate time, then you're training the wrong thing. And what this lady was doing, what happened, she would lean over the horse. This is after she got it back from the trainer. And she would lean over the horse, tap the horse on the shoulder, exactly like the trainer would do. And then the horse would spook off sideways. The lady would come off. The horse was getting the release by spooking sideways. And the lady just wasn't skilled enough to recognize I need to stop a little sooner. Maybe I need to just kind of pet on the horse's back and then step off. Work up to this thing, patting on the shoulder a little slower. Or when the horse did spook off, back up. Um, if a horse, the idea is to release the pressure before the horse does the bad thing, the thing you want to discourage. But if you miss that mark and the horse keeps doing the thing that you want to discourage, you cannot take the pressure away. That's why when I talk about riding a horse that spooks, if I'm walking him around and just say, for instance, he spooks at this banner over here, I'm not going to come over here and stop and compose myself and catch my breath and say, it's okay, boy, because according to his mind, he got to rest over here because he spooked over there. You have to realize what that horse is thinking. If the horse spooks over here, I'm going to keep his feet moving, and somewhere over there is where we're going to stop. That's where we're going to release the pressure. And if you do that correctly and you do that continually and you're real consistent about it, when a horse sees something and he's worried about it, he's going to instantly go to it. Use that technique a lot when I was training police horses. And you can't teach a horse, you can't show a horse everything out there in the world and say, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. But what you can teach a horse is when you worry about something, give me this response. And that's really the goal of what you're wanting to teach any horse. When I take horses like him or any of the other horses to shows, there's going to be stuff they've probably never seen before. Hopefully, we'll be showing in Guthrie, Oklahoma in a few months. It's a big facility, and there's probably going to be things that he's never seen before. But what I can teach him is when you see this scary thing, do this thing. There any comments yet that we need to talk about or questions? Yeah, that absolutely happens. Sebastian said he was taking the pressure away too quickly and reinforcing the timing, reinforcing that bad thing. It's really easy to do, and trainers do it all the time. But what you have to do, you have to recognize what happened and do a better job next time. You want your training to always be a slow, consistent, get better. Sometimes you have a little bit of a setback. It's not huge, but having the setback is not huge, but you have to recognize, hey, it went wrong because of this and progress from it. Yeah, good question. Who asked that? Okay, that's Dusty. Talk about asking for too much before you release the pressure. So you want the horse to continually to get better, and you have a green horse, a horse that maybe totally green, maybe you can't even get the halter on him. You're going to ask for one step, might even be less than one step. It might be one ear, it might be one eye. And then you're going to reward that one thing. You're going to reward progress in that direction, progress towards what you want to reward. That's what Dusty did loading Basta yesterday. Reward that effort. Sometimes I'll even reward the thought. If I think the horse is thinking about doing the task that I want, I'll release the pressure. I'll reward. Uh, where you get into trouble is if you start asking for too much too quick. Instead of one ear, one eye, one step, you start asking for 3 steps, 4 steps. Uh, you get impatient, and then what happens is the horse doesn't get the reward for the effort, and he's like, "Well, I didn't get the reward. Why do I need to try? I'll just go over here." There's too much pressure, asking too much of the horse. You have to ask in reward for what your horse is capable of. I could take 2 different horses at the exact same stage of training, and I might need to reward one horse a little bit earlier than the other horse, just because of how the horse thinks, just because of how the horse acts. Um, some horse I might ask a little more, some horses I might ask a little less, and it really, you have to be the judge of that. And sometimes as trainers, we might say, okay, I think this horse is ready to give me that second step. It might happen, it might not. And if the horse does, great. That's how you advance training. We're not going to go watch, see what's going on right here. That's how you advance training. Ask for that second step. And you have to keep advancing a horse's training. That if you never ask for the second step, you're never going to get it. You can't always reward that first initial effort, but you have to at least get the thought into the horse's head of, if you do this thing, you will get this reward. As a horse gets further in training, I'm going to ask a little more of it. I see a lot of people. Let's just say, for instance, you're working on softening the horse laterally, and you ask pressure and you release. Basic pressure and release. Give me your head, release. But at some point, as that horse's training progresses, I'm going to ask him to hold that contact a little bit longer, and not just there, and not just flex this way, but flex this way. Then I'll reward. You have to judge when you release to keep your horse progressing. And nobody's perfect. There's no trainer perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But the important part is you recognize the mistake and you move on from it. The lady that I was talking to yesterday, she was doing the task, but she didn't really recognize where the mistake came in. In with her situation, the horse had already learned, hey, I spook sideways, pressure goes away. And she didn't really understand the concept of what the horse had learned. Another question?
Can you talk about pressure from behind?
Pressure from behind. So that could apply a bunch of different ways. So pressure from behind, if you could be talking like asking the horse to step forward, little pressure with forward. And let's take, for instance, Legend. I was working him in a video a few days ago, working on his spin. And in that video, we were trotting some circles, getting some forward. Basically, what I was doing was adding that pressure from behind, asking him to go forward, and then I would ask him to step into a spin. And if he would take that pressure from behind, continue that forward, use that forward, that impulsion, and give me effort in the spin, then we would stop. If he didn't give me that effort from behind, then I would go right back into the forward, into the circle. So you can have pressure all different kind of ways. I can use pressure from behind, ask him to go forward. It can be pressure with the reins, asking him to flex. Pressure with the shoulders, asking for leg yield. Uh, Pressure getting into a horse trailer. I mean, it's you use pressure and release for just about every aspect of working with a horse. Another question?
My horse is at a facility with scheduled feeding time. She knows there's food in her stall. She doesn't want to stand still in the wash rack and wants to turn so she can see her food. Is that something that I can train out of her?
Okay.
Or to protect?
What was the last sentence? I was talking. I missed it.
Out of her, or an instinct to protect?
Okay, so the question is, at where she boards, though they feed all the time at the same, they feed always at the same time. And if the feed is in the horse's stall, she doesn't pay attention to her in the wash rack. Is that something that can be trained? Uh, yeah, that is something that can be trained. Um, the horses in training, I'm going to ride them. I'm going to work with them in general, no matter what's going on with feeding in the barn. Few exceptions, like if it's a younger horse or a horse that I know is going to um a situation where that might be too much pressure, or I might not be able to release the pressure at the right time. Horse like rider, yeah. If I'm working him and they're going to dump feed, we're going to dump feed. It's not a problem. Uh, horse with, let's say, firecracker is a lot greener under saddle. That's not a horse, not a situation we would do that. We have a young student riding in the arena. We're not going to feed at that point because that could be more than what that student can handle. But in general, yes, I'm going to expect that horse to behave during feeding time, feed in their stall. If she is ignoring you in the wash rack, watching for her feed, then I'm going to make her move her feet. We might saddle back up and go back to work. She needs to do what you ask her to do, and she'll eat when she gets done. Often, I'll come in here in the morning, they'll start dumping feed, and I'll grab whatever the first horse I'm going to work. I might let him get a bite or two, then I'm going to saddle up and go to work. And he's going to have to go to work, and he's going to know everybody else is eating, and we're going to do our thing. And when we get done, he'll get to eat. Uh, but you have to be horseman enough to be able to work through whatever your horse is doing. It could get could get bad depending on how kind of set in that is with the horse. Any other questions?
With pressure and release, isn't it key to recognize no and I don't know?
Yeah, with pressure and release, isn't it key to recognize no and I don't know? Yes, that is very key. Uh, if you apply pressure and that horse says no, then you're not going to release at that point. You might even build pressure a little bit. If you add pressure and the horse says, I don't know, you might need to back up a step and help that horse understand, I don't know. Really, really important with all situations with your horse that you're able to tell the difference between no and I don't know. Um, how you handle no and I don't know is going to be different. If you have a horse that says, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm usually going to escalate the pressure. If the horse says, I don't know, I don't understand, I'm usually going to soften the pressure and kind of back up and help the horse understand. And where you get in trouble is, let's say you have a horse that says no. And like I said, usually when a horse says no, I'm going to escalate the pressure. Well, if you have a horse that says no, I'm not going to do that, and instead of escalating, you take that as I don't know how, and you reduce the pressure, then that horse is getting the reward for saying no, being rewarded for not doing the task that you asked him to do. So it's very, very important that you understand the difference. I think timing is probably the most often way pressure and release is creates problem, and probably misunderstanding no and I don't know is probably the second most common reason that you create problems with your horse with pressure and release. And you can't not use pressure and release. Every form of training uses pressure and release of some sort. That's how horses, that's what they understand, what they communicate. Your level of pressure might be higher or lower depending on the method that you use. The release might be more of a release or less of a release depending on the method that you use. But all methods of training are some form of pressure and release. I don't really buy into this uh, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. You there's arguments all over the place with that. Uh, every form of training should use some sort of positive reinforcement and should use some form of negative reinforcement. Um, you have to positively encourage the horse to do the things you want with a positive reinforcement. You have to discourage certain things with a negative reinforcement. And it's no different than raising a child. Uh, you might have a timeout chair or timeout corner for your child. That's a form of negative reinforcement. And you can't, I don't believe you can adequately raise a horse or raise a child without some form of negative reinforcement at the right place, at the right time, at the right amount. But it has to be balanced with positive reinforcement. No, no, I don't believe any extreme is good. I don't think, and this goes for every part of life. I don't think any extreme of anything is good. I think usually somewhere in the middle is usually the right answer. And it goes the same way with training. Somewhere in the middle is usually the best. Any more comments?
There's some comments. They're loving the two in the back
Yeah,
row.
loving the entertainment. So that is Bug on the right and T on the left, and they do this for hours every day. Um, Especially now that it cooled off a little bit. I've been trying to get a picture of them both reared up playing, but I haven't got that yet. I'll get a picture with one up or the other one up. But this is our entertainment every day.
Can you talk about the difference between pressure and wrong thing hard?
Okay, the difference between pressure and wrong thing hard. Um, so wrong thing, they're going to be really similar. Let's say I ask him to move his shoulder over. I'm going to put pressure here, and he's going to move over. I release the pressure and release. But let's say I put the pressure. Let's say I put pressure here, and he leans into my pressure. Well, then at that point, I'm going to make him move his feet. I'm going to make the wrong answer hard, and then I'll ask him to move over again. Uh, right thing easy, wrong thing hard, and pressure and release, they all kind of work together. If you put pressure and you get the right response, you release. If you put pressure and you don't get the right response, you're going to maybe add a little bit more pressure, or you might make the wrong thing hard. And that's kind of like what I talked about with the horse spooking. Horse spooks over here. I'm going to make the spook the wrong thing hard, and we're going to work, and we're going to reinforce that's not the right thing to do. But if you're worried about that thing, we'll go stand by it. There's a training technique where they ask the horse to go touch things, and if the horse is scared of something, he'll go touch it, and that is um, kind of similar in a lot of ways. The difference is that I'm going to do a little bit more moving their feet when they don't go touch the thing. And I might not necessarily ask them to touch it. I might ask them to just go stand by it. Um, just a little bit different way to accomplish a little bit different thing. But pressure and release, right thing easy, wrong thing hard, they need to work together.
How do you read if horse doesn't know or just refuses saying no?
Okay, good question. How do I read if a horse does not know or if a horse is saying no? So, what you have to do is you have to watch the response to the horse. So, if I take and put pressure here to ask the shoulders to move over, if the horse does not know what that contact means, his initial response is going to be to do nothing because he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. So, then his reaction would tell me he does not know what he's supposed to do off this contact. But let's say I start applying pressure, and as the pressure is coming, he leans into that pressure. Well, then that tells me that he knows what that pressure is, and he knows he's supposed to go that way, and he's telling me no by leaning into the pressure. So it's little bitty tiny things that tell me that answer that question. Does the horse not know, or is he saying no? And it could be as simple as picking the rein up. He wasn't paying attention. He was looking in the barn. But when I started picking the rein up, if he was telling me no, his head would have went off to the left in response to saying no to the contact. He was paying attention to Patty in the barn. He really wasn't saying no. He was just distracted. There. See how easy he came over? Well, that was positive response. If he did not know, I would have made the contact and he'd have just been like, duh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So you have to look at the response that the horse gives you in that moment.
When working with a horse that doesn't want to keep its foot up to be trimmed, what would you do to tell him pressure-wise that you want his foot up? I'm confused on the correction.
Okay, so if you're working with a horse that does not want to keep his foot up while it's being trimmed, uh, there's several factors that's going to play into that. If it's just a matter of the horse saying, no, I'm not going to give you my foot, then what has to happen is you have to hold that horse's foot up until that horse gives in and agrees. And I've done that several videos. You saw a video a while back with Firecracker. She wasn't wanting to give the farrier her foot and actually started kicking out at the farrier, not wanting to. And I brought her out here and I tied her foot up. And that was her action, and there was no. So I brought her out here and tied the foot up and said, you're going to give me your foot. So if that's what it takes, you have to keep doing the action until you get the yes. If I'm asking him to move his shoulders, I'm going to keep doing the action until I get the movement I'm asking for. If I don't get the movement and I release, then I'm teaching the horse that the pressure is going to go away without the movement. It's a lot harder when you're dealing with a foot because feet are dangerous and you could get kicked. You can get pawed. As a old wise tale that says the back feet will hurt you and the front feet will kill you. And that's very true. Back feet will hurt if you get kicked. That horse comes up and comes down on top of you with the front feet. That's going to kill you. That's worse. Front feet, even though people are scared of the back feet, the front feet are more dangerous. Uh, so you have to do whatever you have to do to keep that foot up until that horse gives you a yes answer.
Just a comment, kind of. The trouble is we have 6 months of the year where we're not posting anything last spring.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
This is in a comment to the lady about the horse ate his fly spray and hosing
Okay.
and he had fits, and at first I was stopping, but I quickly learned he was not afraid. Just being a brat and having a tantrum. She said the trouble is we have 6 months of the year where we are not hosing or using fly spray.
Okay. So in her situation, the horse is kind of a brat about being hosed or being fly sprayed, and there's 6 months out of the year that they're not doing either one. Uh, I can understand not hosing if it's freezing weather, but you can fly spray a horse year round. You can put some water in a bottle. Doesn't have to have fly spray in, just water. Spray him every day. That little bit of mist on him is not going to hurt him. I don't care how cold it is outside. That's not going to hurt. Um, Hosing, I could kind of see that in a really cold environment, but there's other things that you can do. You can bring the horse in, and if you have hot water, you can spray that on the hooves in the barn, and that would feel good. There's things that you can do. Um, Not doing it for 6 months just because it's cold, I think you can work around that. I had a Mustang that came in, a captured wild Mustang. She was terrified of fly spray, and I just kept a bottle of water by the stall, and I'd walk past her 6, 8, 10 times a day. I'd pick up the bottle and I'd start spraying her in a stall, and she would bounce around. And then every time her feet got still, I'd take the fly spray away. And it didn't take very long that just as soon as I started spraying her, her feet would get still. Because that's really what you're teaching. You're not necessarily teaching the horse to be fly sprayed. You're teaching the horse that if you get scared, you get your feet still, and that scary thing will go away. You're teaching the response to that scary thing. Just like I was talking about a minute ago, if the horse spooks at a thing over here, I'm teaching the response, go stand by the scary thing and everything's going to be okay.
So once you get the foot up, how do you convince the horse to keep it there?
So if you probably need to go back and watch the video of me working firecracker and put a rope on the foot and tie it up to the saddle horn. If you can't hold it up. Now, if you're not comfortable with that or you don't know how to do that, you need to get somebody that is experienced with it, because you can injure the horse and you can create some issues. But just like anything else, that horse has to hold his leg up until you say put it back down. I had a pony in here, and the pony would be good for me, but when I was working with when my granddaughter worked with it, he'd pull his foot away from my granddaughter. So that's basically what I did. I put a rope on the pony's leg and held the foot up while she cleaned the foot out. And according to the pony, he thought that she could hold his foot up, that he couldn't take it away. That's what you're really after. You have to convince that horse that you are strong enough to hold that foot up no matter what. And you just have to use techniques and methods to teach that. And if that's something you're not comfortable with or you don't have experience with, you probably need to get with a trainer to help you with that. Okay, let's walk him around just a little bit. So, a lot of the issues that I see are with pressure and release applied incorrectly. And let's talk about a couple of them. I talked about in the wash rack, taking the water away at the wrong time. I have seen it where sacking out with a plastic bag, taking the plastic bag away at the wrong time. That's timing issues. You see it a lot with trailer loading. A lot of trailer loading problems are created because either you're asking for too much, just like, let's go forward, just like I think it was Dusty that mentioned. Dinner right there, that was a no. I escalated. If you ask for too much when you're asking a horse to get in the trailer, then you're going to create an issue. If you don't ask for enough, you could create an issue. You have to look at that horse and read what that horse is telling you. I say a lot. You have to read what your horse is actually telling you, not what you want to hear. And many people have thoughts in their head. I mean, especially little girls from little age, they have this My Little Pony fantasy about horses, and that it's taught to them from when they're little. But horses are not life-size My Little Ponies, and those conceptions that we have when we're little, we take those into adulthood, and it it kind of creates a prejudice when we're working with our horses as an adult because that's what we have to work with. Uh, I remember I was really little. I don't remember. I was really little, like maybe 4. I remember riding one of the little mechanical horses outside TGY where you put the little, probably a nickel at the time. And I remember, I think it was my mom, I don't remember, telling me to kick the horse. And when I kicked the horse, she'd drop the money in it and the horse would go. So I grew up with the concept that kick to make go, pull to stop. And I had to adapt that mindset to how horses actually were. They're not like the little mechanical horse outside TGNY that you drop the nickel in. Uh, and I think all of us have some sort of concept about horses from when we're kids. Fantasize. There's all kinds of TV shows about horses. I know I have some nieces that was big heart on Heartland, and I tried to watch an episode or two, and I couldn't. After about 2 episodes, I couldn't watch no more. Uh, yeah, and there are a lot of TV shows like that. Um, Exceptions in our mind that they're just not true and creates problems in our later adult life when we get horses. There are a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people that says I'm 50 years old or I'm 60 years old. My kids moved out. Now I'm getting my first horse, and that happens a lot. And we have that lifetime of what we think is true about horses, and then we get a horse and find out that that's not true, and things are a lot different. And we have to make sure that we adapt ourselves to the horse. We don't try to get the horse to adapt to us. Um, I see that a lot, and plenty of people have a concept in their head of training techniques, or they want things to work a certain way. And sounds good on paper, sounds good in your head, but when you actually start to apply those things, they don't always come together like what we would like for them to come together, and we have to adapt. You see a lot of the horses that I train, I do a lot different. I'll train one horse one way and another horse a different way. I'll adapt to that horse, and you have to be willing to do that for you to become a better horseman and for the horse to get better. I see a lot of situations where people want to send a horse to a trainer, and this is where it all comes in, where the horse needs to come and learn, or the owner needs to come and learn about the horse. You send a horse to a trainer, and a trainer rides it for 30 days, 6 months, however long it is, and the horse goes back home, and the owner expects that horse to have adapted to them, and it doesn't work that way. A horse is a partnership, and you have to work with your horse. The horse has to work with you, and you kind of come together that way. Um, that's why just sending a horse off to a trainer and not being involved with the training isn't going to work, because you have to adapt. You have to change too. I'm trying to remember the situation. I remember a conversation I had with somebody, and they were insistent on accomplishing this thing this way. And it could work with some horses that way, but it wasn't going to work with that horse. And they were insistent. They wanted to train this horse to do this thing this way. And you have to be willing to adapt your methods depending on to fit your horse. Any other questions or comments before we close? What you got?
Many horses pull their feet when a farrier works on them. Sometimes farrier loses balance and tumbles over. Sometimes falls over. Pretty sure that's not the time to attack.
I can't hear you. Let me get a little closer. Speak up a little bit.
Many horses pull their feet when a farrier works on them. Sometimes farrier loses balance and tumbles over. Sometimes twice over. Pretty sure that's not the time to go pat on the horse.
Uh, so that they somebody said they stopped letting other people ride their horse because they let them do things, and you have to fix it. That's true. That's exactly right. And I didn't really get the first one about the farrier tumbles over.
It was talking about the feet. Said many horses pull their feet when a farrier works on them. Sometimes the farrier loses balance and tumbles over. Sometimes twice. Pretty sure that's not a time for you to pat on the horse.
Oh yes, yeah. If the farrier is working on the horse's feet and the horse is pulling its foot away from the farrier, that's not a time to say good boy and pet on the horse. Uh, Usually something a little bit more drastic is going to come after that. And a lot of horses lean real hard on a farrier. There's all kind of things that horses do to farriers, and if you want to keep a good farrier, you need to teach your horse to behave for the farrier. It's not your farrier's responsibility to train your horse. He's going to come every 5 or 6 weeks. That's not going to train your horse alone. You have to do it. We're not turning and watching them again. It's your job to train your horse for the failure. And if your horse is pulling his foot away, you need to fix it. You need to do whatever it's going to take to fix that. Feet are one of the harder things to work with because people are scared and you can get hurt. So a lot of times that gets left to a professional person to work with feet. Some horses it's really easy. I've seen. See, who is it? I think it's Bebe. When he picks his foot up, he snatches it up really quick, and you think he's going to kick you. You think that foot's coming and it's going to shoot out, but that's just how he picks his foot up. And if somebody that doesn't know that it's happening and he snatches the foot up, they're going to drop it and let go and move. And that is a really easy situation for Bebe to quit picking his foot up, because if you think that kick is coming, um, he snatches it up quick and you run the other way. Well, he's going to quit picking his foot up. And um, so it's really easy. That's one of those really easy situations to apply pressure and release the wrong way. You have to not just understand, you got to understand what the horse is doing. It'd be nice if he'd pick his foot up a little easier. That needs to be better. But you also have to understand the intention. If he is picking his foot up quick and his intention is not to be bad, I'm not going to do something real hard to him to reprimand the picking the foot up quick. I'm not going to slap him or anything like that, because then you might inadvertently be teaching to not pick his foot up. What you want to do is you want to ask him to pick it up slow. And that's just one of those things. All horses, he's what, 20, 21 years old. All horses, they're going to learn and adapt their whole life. Let's walk some circles. He's getting bored. This way. This way. There we go. All horses, their whole life, they adapt, they change, and they're gonna change to their environment. They're gonna change according to the pasture they're in, the horses that are around them, um, the time they're fed, the boarding facility. They're constantly adapting. And I don't care how old that horse is, he's going to be constantly changing. And when I lost my train of thought. Um, oh, I saw a question. Somebody asked a question. When is a horse finished? When is a horse trained? And my answer is never. He's being trained his whole life. He's never finished. You can take a topped out, fully what you would consider a fully trained horse, uh, 10 years old, and in a year, you're going to have things that you need to work on. He might be a foot issue, might be whatever the maneuver you're doing. Let's say it's a reining horse. Maybe he's gotten sloppy in his spin. Maybe he's gotten incorrect going over a jump. Maybe he's lazy with his feet in his canter pirouette. That horse is going to be changing his whole life. We do the same thing. And so a horse is really never fully trained, because they're going to continue changing. They're going to continue adapting to their situation. They're going to adapt to what their handler lets them get away with, lets them do, doesn't let them do. That's constantly changing. So I think we're gonna end on that. Uh, and I appreciate everybody for joining in for this talk on pressure and release, and applying pressure and release correctly, and how applying pressure and release incorrectly can create problems. So until next time, thank you for watching.